Yes, yes.
A very good evening to all. It is indeed a moment of great pride for all of us at Birla Vidyaniketan to welcome Jatin Kishore. Jatin Kishore, an alumnus and the school topper of the 2012 batch. After that, he went to St. Stephen's College to do his bachelor's in economics honors and in the Delhi School of Economics to do his master's. Topper of Indian Economic Services 2018 and the UPSC topper 2019, the All India second rank holder. Jatin, we are so proud to have you amongst us, and a group of 4,000 BVNites and their families are at present watching you. It's a very special moment. And I only hope and wish that our founders were alive, Shrimati Sarla Birla ji and Shri BK Birla ji, because they started the school with great hopes, and having IAS officers coming out from school was certainly one of them. But yes, we have here Mrs. Jayashree Mohta, the present chairperson, and their illustrious daughter with us today. And she is here to welcome you. Ma'am, over to you, please.
Yes. I can't see him. Hello, Jatin.
Hello, ma'am.
I have already welcomed you and congratulated you. And it's a wonderful feat that you have achieved. And all of us are so proud of you. And I am sure you'll do very well in life also. All the best to you, Jatin. And let us start now.
Yes, ma'am. So,
Yeah.
Jatin, how does it feel to become an IAS officer, and that too with a second rank?
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for having me. It's been a long time since I've been back at school. I joined the school in 1998, then passed out in 2012. So it's been a 14-year-long association and lots of fond memories. And it's great to be back here. Ma'am, answering your question, it's a great feeling. Personally, I never expected to get something like second rank. I don't think anybody expects something like that. But it's a great feeling. It's something that I really desired, and having achieved that goal, I think that's one of the best feelings in the world.
Yes, your teachers remember you very fondly that he was a very simple, quiet student, always did the homework and everything on time, very inquisitive. So taking it further on, we have two teachers whom you requested to come to be called specially because they have retired and they are not with us. So we have Vinita Kaul ma'am and Seema Das Garg ma'am. They are both here. So Vinita ma'am, what do you have to say?
Yes, ma'am. It's so nice to see Jatin speaking so much, ma'am, because he was a very, very quiet boy. He never used to speak much in the class, though he was so conscientious about his studies and, well behaved, very, very humble. And I always used to tell him, Jatin, you should speak. You should speak. Do you remember, Jatin?
I remember, ma'am, I'm still a little like that, but getting a little better.
No, you are too good now, and you have cleared your interview. That shows that you are the best now. So it is such a good feeling. Jatin, I feel so proud, so proud. I was so overwhelmed that day. When I was talking to you, actually, I was choking. So it gives me so much of pleasure. And you know something, you have created history because you're the first one to crack UPSC examination. We have so many doctors, so many engineers, IITians, in forces, everywhere we have BVNites. But uh, in civil services, you're the first one. So kudos. I congratulate you, Vita. God bless you. And I wish you all the best for your future endeavors.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. That's great to hear, ma'am, and I hope there are many more to follow after me.
Oh, yes. I want to see your name somewhere, all the time. So you have to go very high up in the, rung of ladder. So you have to go, you have to reach, at a very, very high pedestal and keep school's flag flying very high.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
So we also have Seema Das Garg ma'am, whom you wanted to meet. Seema, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Jatin. Jatin, we are so proud of you. I'm sure your parents are proud, but more than that, I think the school is going completely overwhelmed with your wonderful achievement. We all hoped for one IAS officer. You have done us so proud. Second position is something that we all dreamt of. Jatin, you've always been so sincere and conscientious, and I hope you're going to keep these two qualities throughout your life. You're an ideal student, you're going to be an ideal officer. Someday you may land up to be the Secretary of India, and someday you're going to form policies, you're going to help government do something wonderful. Already we have a wonderful government, and you are going to do those wonderful things so that the country reaches the position that we aspire for. Jatin, keep doing wonderful work.
Thank you, ma'am. It's great to hear this from you. And I hope I can live up to all of your expectations.
Certainly you will.
Definitely, we are sure
Certainly.
about
We would like the country to rise under your kind of people.
young.
Yes,
Yeah.
the work that you do, the nation must scale greater heights. So I think we are trying to set very high and tough standards, but we are sure you'll be able to achieve them. Gayatri ma'am, would you like to ask something?
Yes, ma'am. To begin with, I would like to congratulate Jatin on his fantastic achievement. And I'm sure his accomplishment could not have been possible without his hard work and determination, which probably he required in large measure to achieve this, because it's no mean feat to be second position holder in the UPSC exam. Jatin, I would like you to take a trip down the memory lane and tell us some recollection you have of school. Any incident, any memory that you feel that is etched in your mind or you still cherish about the school. Something that you can share with all of us.
I think I'll share something. I mean, this was a lesson for me as well, and maybe it can be an inspiration for others as well who are listening in, especially the younger students. So this is something from my early years. I used to be very terrified, even initially, of going to school. And especially, I remember we used to have swimming lessons, class nursery to second. So I was terrified of swimming. I don't know why that was, but I was. So I used to tie bandages around my uh, knees and ankles, pretend I am hurt, and then so that I could be excused from swimming. I also asked my mother to write me, he has a fever, so please excuse him. So she did that once or twice. But after that, she put her foot down. No, nothing doing. You have to go. You have to at least try. And I think by the time I turned up without a note, my teacher had also realized that he's just making excuses. So when one day when I turned up without a note, she said, "No, nothing doing. You have to go. You have to try." I was extremely terrified. No, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? I stepped into the pool gingerly, terrified. I don't know what I was terrified. And then nothing really happened because nothing was so scary about it. We were just going into the shallow portion of it, not even into the deeper aspects. And I'd seen the other kids having a good time, having fun. Nothing really happened. And after that, I was pretty comfortable with, at least going into, I didn't become very good at it, but at least I was comfortable going into the pool. So that's what I wanted to say. At least initially, there's a lot of fear of the unknown that holds us back. What is going to happen? What are others going to think of us? So this is something that I'd like to share with all the other students or the other parents so that they can inspire the children who are listening in. School is perhaps the best place where you can try out different things, especially the younger kids. I'm sure there are lots of clubs, lots of activities in school. And I would say, please try out lots of different activities, explore. I'm sure each of you will discover something unique, something, a great talent about you. And school is the best place. A lot of things that we pick up in school, habits, simple things, a lot of mental development happens in school. And this is the best place to try out different things. I think that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you so much, Jatin.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
So that was wonderful. So you learned swimming in the same swimming pool which we have now, and thousands of other children have learned. That's one thing. In all the Birla schools, I see that all the schools have swimming pools, and it's one very good activity that we can boast of. So Jatin, we have been talking of your successes. Any
Right.
failures? I'm sure you've had failures also in life, because there can't be a life without failures.
True, ma'am. Failures, no such big failures. I'm happy. I have had a privileged life. I'm happy. I had good, loving parents. I got such good education, both in school and later. So I wouldn't say they're failures, but sometimes when you are in school, a bad score or a bad result, I was used to having good scores. So that seems like the end of the world. So my class 10th results were somewhat of it wasn't a failure, I wouldn't say. I got a lesser score than expected, but I was pretty disappointed. I remember I used to attend the foundation day where we were given prizes every year, and that was the only year I missed out. So that was a very disappointing experience, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. We think it's such a big impact, but marks at the end of the day, they're important, of course, not to undermine the importance, but it doesn't really make a huge lot of difference. So that is something I think as students we lack that perspective, and it's important to keep that in mind, that
You made up
failure
more than that in class 12.
I did, ma'am. I think that was one of the reasons
Yeah, I remember, Jatin, you missed out 1 mark, and you know why. You
I know,
know why.
I
The moment
remember
you
that.
came out of the examination hall, you knew what did you miss. Went off
Right.
factor and you lost 1 mark, right?
I remember that to
but
this.
but you were a rare blend of diligence and intelligence.
Yes.
Intelligent you were, but you were very diligent.
Very
And I
hardworking.
always say these two things go hand in hand. One can't only be successful with being intelligent. So you were
So
a
it's a beautiful message that number one, if you don't get scores or marks as you expect, don't get disappointed. That's not the end of the world. And secondly, you have to work hard besides being intelligent. So coming straight to the children now, because they are eagerly waiting to ask questions. Some are here, the others are just watching, but I feel the questions are more or less the same. Abhimanyu Sharma of class 12th. Your question, please.
Good evening, sir. Achieving top slot in the coveted civil services examination is no small feat. Accept our heartiest congratulations for your splendid success.
Thanks a
So
lot.
my question to you is, I being myself an UPSC aspirant, so my question to you is, what was your approach towards examination? And during your phase of preparation, there are mental breakdowns. So how did you handle it?
Okay, so first of all, I think you said you are a UPSC aspirant. Did I get that right? What class are you in?
12th.
12th.
Okay,
Right.
so even if you are in 12th, I think that's a little too early to start thinking of UPSC as your goal right now. Even to you and to all the other students, this is something that I'd really like to emphasize. Please do not constrain yourself to only UPSC right now. Focus on your short term, focus on your college right now, do that well. Because UPSC is a very specific kind of job. There are lots of different opportunities available to you. So please explore that. But anyway, getting to your question, what was my approach? So I had started pretty late. I started preparing after my master's. Uh, so I took a year off, and that was where I did most of my preparation. And the second question was related to setbacks, right?
Yes.
Yes, second question, setbacks. So I prepared 1 full year. I devoted to preparation, and unfortunately, in my first time that I was writing the exam, I couldn't clear the prelims exam. So that was a pretty big setback. I'll briefly go into the reasons. So I'm sure you know there are 100 questions in the prelims exam, and there's negative marking. I attempted only around 70 questions, which in hindsight was a little too few, and the negative marking brought down my score. So in my next attempt, I attempted a lot more questions, 85 to 90 questions, and that I think helped. So this is just basically what I did from what I realized were my mistakes. But dealing with setbacks, I think it's important to have a good support system. And I was lucky enough that I had that in my parents and my friends. Take some time off after your setbacks. Think about what went wrong, and then, of course, there's no need to lose hope. There's a lot of stages in this exam, a lot of things that can go wrong. So please don't take any sort of setback as a reflection on yourself. You can still do it. It doesn't mean that you are doing something very wrong. Reflect on your mistakes and try and improve them, but please do not take failures too hard.
That's a wonderful message. So I think children, you should really listen to what Jatin is saying, because important messages for your emotional development also. Next we have Arman. He is also in class 12th. Arman, your question please.
Good evening, sir. First of all, I just want to congratulate you because you made all of us so very proud. And I think you've become an inspiration for all the students of BVN, not only class 12, class 11, or class 10, just all of us. And sir, we were fortunate enough to have a session with Mr. Ashwin Sanghi yesterday, who's a renowned author. And he said something which I think you'll find very relevant. He said that what we lack today in Indian polity is a nobility of purpose. So, sir, now that you've become a part of the bureaucracy, you must have a vision of the India of your dreams, which you want to achieve. So, my question is, what is your vision for India 2030? And how do you plan to achieve it with that nobility of purpose in mind, or, a positive outlook on things?
One of the questions of the interview. Could be.
Difficult question, ma'am. A difficult question for me to answer as well.
Yes, usually.
Well, I would say I don't really have a specific vision in mind, but I think I'd like to work on two specific areas. I've discussed this before as well in other places. So first, I feel a lot of focus on education, and I think it's appropriate that I'm discussing this at my school, because education, I feel, is one of the most important tools and what most important things that we can equip our future generations with. It basically forms the base of life and is a great tool for social mobility. So I think that good quality education is something that I hope and wish I can contribute towards. And we can have something like that by 2030. The government is also making efforts. I'm sure some of you know
Seems
about
that he has a network issue.
the new education policy that is coming. It has a grand vision. Hopefully I can be a part of that in some small way. The second thing I think is important currently are environmental issues, especially with the pandemic going on, and we've seen how delicate the interaction between nature and humans are. So that is something that I feel is very important, especially the related issues of climate change. And hopefully we'll be able to do a lot more, move towards cleaner energy, and cleaner energy, better renewable resources. And I feel the bureaucracy is one of the best ways we can do that. You will be part of the system, you will be able to make changes from within. And this is a very good opportunity for you to contribute and towards improvement of society. And even if I can help one person become better or have access to better services, better facilities, I think I would have done good.
Thank you, Jatin. The next question is from Gauri Agarwal.
Good evening, sir. Sir, I feel so blessed talking to you. So now that you've become a great source of inspiration for lakhs of students across the nation, sir, what are the core areas which you want to reform, sir?
I covered this a little, education and environment, because these I feel are really important. There are lots of different issues that need reform currently. Not sure what else to go into. But yes, these two areas I feel that are really important and need a lot more focus going forward.
Can add employment also.
Areas which we talked about.
Hello? Yes, ma'am.
Maybe another one or two areas which you feel strongly about. Tell us.
I'm getting a lot of different voices.
I think everybody else can mute themselves. Okay. Is it better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, please continue.
So like I mentioned, something like education and environment. And of course, now that we've seen what the pandemic has done, something like the health sector is becoming increasingly important. We've seen that India, unfortunately, has been struggling a little, although we've done a great job now. There is, of course, some inadequacies in our public health infrastructures. I think that is something that can be addressed, and the government is taking a lot of steps. In Delhi specifically, we've seen that the health sector has stepped up significantly, and hopefully, if I can contribute, I'll hopefully be working in Delhi and other union territories in the future. So if something like that can be addressed, I think that will be something I'd like to contribute towards.
Question is from Gul. Gul Mathur.
A very good evening to you, sir. It's a pleasure to talk to you. So my question is that even as Principal Ma'am said, there is no success without failures. So what were some of the techniques that you adopted to deal with failures in your life?
Failures, like I said, I faced a setback when I couldn't clear the first stage of the exam. And basically it was to go over the mistakes, analyze what happened. First of all, I'm sure it's a disappointing experience, I won't lie. You've spent a lot of time, you've spent a lot of effort, a lot of hard work into preparing, and then when you can't clear the exam, of course everybody feels bad. I also felt bad, and you go back, you're very sad, but you have to take that as a challenge. You have to try and reflect what all went wrong and try and correct those mistakes in the next time. So that is what I did. And at the same time, you need to have some sort of support system. Retreating into yourself completely is not going to be a good option. You need to have something that you enjoy doing in your off time. You need to relax for some time, take some time off, take some time completely off from whatever you were doing and whatever you faced your setback in, and then go back to it with a fresh zeal, fresh energy, and I'm sure you'll do great.
That's wonderful. Never get disheartened. Okay, let's see what Lavanya has to say. Lavanya, she's in class 11.
Good evening, sir. My name is Lavanya Singh. Being a UPSC aspirant myself, I would be glad to ask you that the interview is far more difficult than the prelims and the mains exam. And several institutes like Vajirao give training to students for the same. So, sir, what is your opinion about it?
I think I would disagree that the interview is the most difficult aspect. It might seem so at first because it's quite open-ended in the sense that anything can be asked. But after you think about it, it's not actually so. So whatever the interview panel, most of it is based on, it is a test of your personality. So you have to fill a particular form once before the interview. It's called the detailed application form. It's basically a description of your interest, your educational background, your work experience. So most of the questions are from your background only, from your experiences. Apart from that, there are questions on current aspects, which you'll otherwise be preparing for anyway when you're giving the exam. So in that way, you have to know yourself very well when you're preparing for the interview. It is basically a test of you and your personality and how well you know yourself. Coming to the question of institutes, there are lots of different institutes and they offer mock interviews. I'm sure you can have a try. You can go to different institutes. I also attempted a few mock interviews and it helps a lot. You can get comfortable. They can give you some good tips. And I'm sure you'll realize that eventually the interview is not such a daunting aspect. It's in fact the last stage. So in that way, it might appear that your selection hinges on the interview, but relatively speaking, the interview is just one small part of the total marks as well. The mains has a much bigger chunk. And personally, I felt the prelims exam was the most difficult to clear, the most uncertain, and having the most element of randomness and luck, as I would say. So I wouldn't say that the interview is the most difficult part, and a little confidence practice will help you go a long way.
That's very nice, because generally people feel that interview is the most difficult task. But I think UPSC exams. Our next student, this is Madhav. Madhav, let's have your question, please.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, sir. It's such a privilege to talk to you, and hearty congratulations on your achievement. So, sir, I'm the president of the Interact Club of the school. So, my question was that in school we have a healthy mix of co-curricular activities and academics. So, what do you think is the role of such co-curricular activities in acing any such competitive exam?
So I wouldn't say there's a specific role, but I would recommend that you definitely do participate in that. Whatever clubs or whatever activities you are interested in. This is something that I personally neglected a little, especially in my senior years. And I feel that was a mistake. I now realize how important these things are. So do take part of it. School studies, it's not so demanding that you can't really spare time for these activities. And these will really help build your personality, develop your interests, and develop your hobbies. In fact, it's not so relevant for the civil service exams, but as I said in the interview, they are looking at your personality. They are testing your personality, seeing how well-rounded a person you are. So these interests and developing these hobbies will give you a more nuanced perspective and will definitely help. So I would encourage everyone, you and everyone else who's listening in, please try and involve yourself in such activities.
Thank you so much, sir.
That's wonderful. So that they have a holistic kind of personality developed.
I think that's a very important part.
Yes. So we have next question is coming from Mayank Pathak. He is also in class 12.
Good evening, sir. Firstly, I would like to congratulate you on achieving such a great feat. Sir, my question to you is that millions of students every year attempt the civil services examination, and the exam is also really difficult to pass. So what convinced you that you could crack the examination?
I agree, it's a highly competitive examination and the success rates are quite low. So that's why I said initially, don't keep this as your sole option. That I think is not a very wise option. Keep your options open, especially at school. I think it's very too early to go fully into UPSC preparation. So keep your options open. I had only started preparing after masters, and I also had the backup option of going for other jobs. I could go into the corporate sector. I could go for PhD. So I had a diverse set of backup options. I also had written the Indian Economic Service exam. So please do not limit yourself, but there is no reason that because so many people are competing, you can't clear it. Don't go with this mindset as well. Prepare fully, have something or the other that you can fall back upon. But once you're into it, do full justice to it, at least 1-2 years, however many years you think you need to put in, and do your best. I'm sure you can make it.
That's a wonderful answer. But, you know, I feel, I don't know, you'll have to correct me, Jatin, for that. You might not be directly preparing for UPSC per se, but general knowledge and you can say the logical reasoning should begin at school level only.
Agreed. I would recommend at least one thing that I would strongly recommend is every student, not only in the senior classes, they should at least start reading the newspaper. That is, I think, a very important part of this exam and in general as well. And there's no harm to it. At the end of the day, you will emerge as more well-informed citizens of the world and the country. And I think that's at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to be. So do start that. Another thing that I'd like to really emphasize is please focus on your NCERT textbooks. These are the books that are recommended first when we start our civil services preparation as well. So please focus on these aspects, focus on your school studies, and definitely read the newspaper. You can start slowly, you can start reading the sports page or the science and tech page if that's what you're interested in. But do read that, and gradually you should move on to the editorial and the opinion page, because that will expose you to a lot of new ideas, lots of different viewpoints, and that will help you build your own critical thinking skills. So these, I wouldn't say these are strictly part of the UPSC preparation, and I think these should most definitely begin in school. But please don't start preparing, start solving papers or looking at previous year papers. I think that's too early. That is what I wanted to say. Enjoy your school, enjoy your college studies, and focus on that.
Yes, that's
And
very
do them
true.
well.
And as you very rightly said, that always plan B should be ready.
Definitely, ma'am. I think it's very important. A lot of people, solely rely on UPSC, and then, unfortunately, because of the nature of the exam, so many people are competing. Not everybody can make it through. So definitely, everyone should have a backup option.
Yeah. In fact, not only plan B, but plan C also should be there at the back of the mind.
Definitely.
Okay. Next, the question is coming from Nadia Garg.
Hi, congratulations on the results, sir. I'd like to ask you, what is it that appeals to you most about a career in the civil services?
So I think the civil services, first, the civil services are a very wide set of options. Not just the administrative services, we have the police services, we have the foreign services, we have taxation related services. So the civil services are a very broad spectrum. There are new services as well now, corporate law service, trade service, specialized services, like I'm part of the Indian Economic Service. So you have a very diverse set of options. Coming specifically to the Indian Administrative Service as well, that's also you have a very wide variety of options. You can work in lots of different sectors, practically any sector that the government is looking after, and that's almost every sector that you can imagine. It's a very challenging, a very dynamic sort of role. And at the same time, you feel that you are actually making changes and making improvements to people's lives. You are providing better services to them, help them connect better to the government. I think there can be no better job than that. And at the end of the day, you have this satisfaction that you are doing something for the improvement of your country, for the improvement of the welfare of the people that you are your fellow citizens. I think that's one of the best jobs and a very satisfying feeling.
That's so nice. So the next question is coming from Navan Chauhan.
Good evening, sir. You've, I guess, almost answered this question. My original question was, what would you rank more for the preparation, either print material or all these websites and blogs? Like, there's a certain sense of information overload now. And like now you already said that like you should prefer NCERT books. So how would you rate these online services along with these?
So you rightly said there's a lot of information overload, lots and lots of sources. But I would recommend you stick to one source. Usually, at least have one textbook for each subject, whatever textbook you're doing. Usually, NCERTs are not alone sufficient. You can use that to get a good idea of the subject if you are completely unfamiliar with them. But usually, you require something a little more, a textbook separately for that subject, but stick to one textbook. Usually, there's a standard list of textbooks. All the people who've qualified, all of them recommend similar books. So stick to one textbook. Websites do have an important role, but use them more for the current aspects. So I'm sure you know that there's a lot of aspects of dynamic aspect to the exam, lots of questions from the news. So use the websites wisely for that, and then to limit yourselves to one or two sources. Don't go after too many sources. The most important thing in this exam is revision. Unless you've revised something, whatever you've studied at least twice or thrice, it won't be very useful. You won't be able to use it in the exam. So I would say read one thing 3 times rather than reading 3 things one time. So that's the most, revision I think is the most important part of the exam. And so keep your sources limited. Stick to one textbook, whatever you're doing, do that multiple times. And you can use websites or whatever other sources you're using for the current aspects.
That's such nice a suggestion that overload of information also is not very apt, and do well whatever you are doing and let it be restricted, but be a master of that. Am I right?
Definitely, ma'am. Right now, there are a lot of sources, and usually you feel, oh, I haven't done this. My friends were suggesting that this is also very nice. But there'll always be that feeling. Ignore that. Stick to whatever you've done. Most of the sources are usually there are on very large overlaps. So whatever you're doing, do it well and have a little trust in yourself, and you'll do it well in the exam.
I think that's something very important that you said, that there'll be friends who will always tell you, oh, ye nahi padha tune. I mean, ab to pura gadbad. So you don't get disheartened by it's a wonderful statement you've made, Jatin. And I think all children suffer this kind of feedback from friends when they tell that, oh, you haven't studied it. And they start forgetting whatever they've studied and start reading into what has been suggested by the friend. So
I think it's more of a problem with all of us. We feel that a friend might have casually mentioned that I've done this, I've done that. Then we feel that we've not done that. And I think it's more a problem to do with us. Of course, all of us are human. We can't do everything. The syllabus is pretty vast. I won't say it's manageable, of course, but it is quite extensive. So there's only limited time. You can only do limited sources. So like I said, have faith in yourself. Doesn't matter what anybody else has done. Do whatever you're doing properly.
All right. I have a question. Do you think that there's something called gut feeling which saves you, or something comes into your mind at the right time and that's the right answer?
Definitely, ma'am. But it can go both ways. Sometimes, especially in the prelims exam, because it's multiple choice. So you have those options in front of you. So you will feel, oh yes, maybe this can be the answer. You have something or the other at the back of your mind. So usually your gut feeling is correct, but sometimes it can go wrong as well. So be a little cautious, but trust your gut feeling most of the time.
Right. So next question is coming from Sagar Garg. He's in class 11. Sagar, your question, please.
First of all, I would like to congratulate you, sir, for achieving such a great feat. It's a pleasure interacting with you. Now, my question to you would be, how did you remain consistent in your studies throughout the course of your preparation? Because consistency of studies is something that I relate to, and it poses a challenge to me sometimes when exams are near or are in course of formation.
I think consistency is very important, especially in this exam. It's a long process. First, you're usually preparing a year prior to giving the exams, and the exam process itself is very long. And I agree, it can be very difficult maintaining that consistency. I also face that problem, but at the very least, I try to do the newspaper every day, even if I'm not doing other studies. You'll always have days when you feel that you don't really feel like studying. You'll be in a sad state. You'll be at a low point, but that's okay. You can forgive yourself, give yourself a little break. You don't need to be super consistent that you'll always study this many hours. Personally, it never worked for me. I never set a goal for myself that I'll study these many hours every day. I don't think that's very useful. Of course, everyone has their own style of studying, but at least try and do something or the other. So that you don't get out of touch completely. You remain in flow with the exam, especially something like the civil service exam, which has a major dynamic component. So definitely it can be difficult, but have that goal in your mind. Ultimately, what are you striving for? And that will motivate you enough that you will try and do your best. And don't be too hard on yourself. That's also something that sometimes we forget, and we criticize ourselves too much. Oh, we haven't studied, we wasted so much time. That's okay. That is part of life, that is important. Otherwise your mind can get burnt out, and that will be very harmful in the long run. So take small breaks, that's okay, but try and do something or the other every day.
Thank you, sir, for your answer.
Next question is coming from Shivangi. She's in class 10. Shivangi, over to you.
Good evening, sir. Sir, since you've scored such a stellar rank, everybody would keep asking you in interviews that how did you prepare or what did you do? But what I really want to know is that what do you feel that you did differently than the other people who gave the exam?
A lot of the things most of the aspirants cover. So what really makes a difference in the ranks and the services that you get is the mains exam, the written component. That's the biggest chunk of the exam. So what I tried to do was I tried to consistently complete the paper. The papers are quite lengthy. I'm sure all of you know this is one of the lengthiest exams in the world. You have to write a lot of words in 3 hours. So what I tried to do was I tried to complete each and every paper. So there are lots of different papers held over a course of 5 to 7 days. So each paper, at least each question, at least try to write something or the other. You don't have to go for perfection in this answer. This is something that I had to change in myself as well, because we're used to writing good quality, very good quality answers, going for perfection. But the civil services, you don't really need to have a perfect answer for everything, because if you focus too much on one or the other answer, you'll end up missing lots of different questions. So write good answers, but at least try and complete all of your paper. That is my recommendation. I feel that is something that must have fetched me extra marks, because I consistently try to complete the paper. And that is what I feel was the difference.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. The Facebook is flooded with congratulatory messages and blessings for all your future endeavors. And everybody is so happy and elated. The next question that is coming from is, this is Tanisha from class 10. Tanisha, over to you.
Good evening, sir. So
Good
my
evening.
question, yes, sir. So my question for you is that behind every topper, there are people who stood by during their uncertain times when he or she was merely an aspirant. So what would you say was the role of your friends and parents in motivating you while you were preparing for your examinations?
I think they played a very, very important role. I think this is more their success than mine. Personally, my parents were very supportive of me. I was very lucky to have them, and they were completely behind my decision to prepare for the exam. I had taken a year off to prepare when I was simply preparing for the exam full time. So that support was very important. And more than that, the moral support. My mother, especially, whenever I used to feel that it'll be difficult to clear the exam, I won't be able to do it. Everybody has these phases because this is a very long process. So she used to encourage me. She used to say that, no, you have it in you, you can do it. Similarly, my friends, especially when I was giving my second attempt, I was undergoing training in the Indian Economics Service. So a lot of my batchmates, some of them were also preparing, and they were very encouraging for me as well. Sometimes I felt that I don't have it, but they were very supportive of me throughout. And so I think the role of this support system, like I mentioned, that's one of the most important things in this exam, because this is a long process. You need somebody behind you to help you get through the process. And I think I was very lucky to have that support system.
How nice. Good friends are very important. But yes, good friends and parents, of course, their blessings and their support is very important in life. The next question is from Tanvi Chopra. She's in class 12.
Good evening, sir. Congratulations for the success. So I would like to ask, so does the educational, financial, and demographic status of the aspirant have any impact on the preparation?
No, not at all. That's I think completely something that is not true. You can be from any educational, any demographic backgrounds. UPSC, it's a very transparent process. The syllabus is perfectly lined out. The interview panel is also very supportive to all candidates. So there's no such. The only thing that can hamper you is your own apprehension. So never have this feeling in your mind. The process is very fair. The government is open to everyone. They're highly inclusive. Everybody has an equal opportunity. So believe in yourself. No such setbacks will be there in the process.
Thank you, sir.
All right. We next have Vedangi Mani Prakash of class 11. Vedangi, ask your question.
Good evening, sir. I'd congratulate for such a tremendous win. And my question would be, a lot of examinees always have this at the back of their mind that time management is a very important thing while preparing for the examination as well as during writing the examination. So did you come across such a situation? And if yes, then how did you manage to come out of it?
Agreed. Time management is one of the most important parts of this exam. Like you mentioned, both during the preparation phase and during the exam itself. So like I mean, during the exam, like I mentioned, I tried to complete each and every question. Even in some questions, I didn't have a lot of time. I tried to at least write 1 or 2 lines because that fetches a little more marks. And more importantly, in the preparation phase, especially during my second attempt, I was working, I was undergoing training for my current job. So I had a little bit of a time constraint. So I tried to make the best use of the time I had. I at least tried to read the newspaper every day, which is very important for this exam. And then in the evenings and on the weekends, whenever I used to get time, I tried to study. So the best way to do that, I think, like I mentioned, don't go after too many sources, don't go after too many things to study. Stick to whatever you've done. I had the advantage that I had already prepared for a year. uh, I had dedicated a year to this exam. So I had that advantage. So most of my second attempt was mostly preparation and revision. I didn't read a lot of new things. So that, I think, is the most important part. Revise and uh, try and make best use of the time you have.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So anybody who has more questions can put the questions in the chat box and we would take over. So Jatin, tell me one thing. Very often it happens that students get confused that they should join coaching classes, and now it is right from class 6, 7 it is happening that after school child must go to the coaching classes and must prepare well. So what is your take on that? And this year, whenever the students who have qualified the UPSC exam, I see there are many from rural backgrounds who have not attended any coaching class or have studied just NCERT probably or simple books. So what is your opinion on that?
Specifically for the civil services exam, I don't think coaching is absolutely essential because these days the internet is available in most areas and a lot of information is available. You can study completely online. Most of the books are available. NCERT books, like you mentioned, they're very affordable and available all over India. So that goes a long way in helping you prepare. Coaching is not necessary, but of course, if you feel that you have some needs for some certain guidance, but personally, I had taken coaching because I felt that I didn't really have a lot of background and I lacked. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, you're audible now.
So personally, I had taken coaching because I felt I needed a little more guidance. A lot of things were new for me, but it's absolutely not essential. Today, you can study on your own, and there's a lot of guidance available on the internet. Now, in more general terms, for the, like you mentioned, classes 6 onwards, people feel that there's no need for coaching or tuitions. I personally hadn't taken any tuitions till class 10th. So my mother is a school teacher. So I had some guidance at home, and I felt school was enough, and the teachers at school were very supportive, and whatever was needed was actually completed in school. Class 11th and 12th, I did take some tuitions or coaching. I feel it has a lot more to do with, again, the perception, the societal perception that everybody is going for tuition. So maybe I'll fall behind if I don't go for tuitions. So that is something that does play a role. But if you feel that you don't really require any extra help or you are doing pretty well in school, then coaching, of course, is not important. And specifically in UPSC, like ma'am mentioned, a lot of people I'm hearing that have cleared it without coaching. It's definitely possible. Coaching is not at all a requirement.
Okay. So Vinita ma'am, would you like to ask something? Your favorite student is here. You'll have to unmute yourself. Vinita ma'am, unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Am I audible now? Yes. Actually, he has answered all the questions and I could feel that some of the ideas he was echoing, like stick to one book, don't refer to too many books, be regular, consistency is very important. Jatin, am I right? So
Yes.
very small things for which foundation is laid in school, I think you can build up on that only as you grow up, as you prepare for your higher studies and all. So I can only say it was really nice to see you speak. And I was in touch with you indirectly through Shreya, ma'am. His sister was with us. She passed out in 2018, and I was teaching her. So I always used to ask about you. So anyway, you have answered so many questions, and I don't want to repeat anything. But I'm so happy to see you at this place now. Really. I feel proud. I don't know.
Oh, we all
I
are
feel
feeling so much of
associated
pride.
with you that I was with you for 2 years. That's it. Though it was your hard work, I cannot take laurels for anything, but it was your hard work only. Teachers are there just as facilitators. They can guide you. And same teacher is guiding so many students, but few are successful and few are not. Because teacher can only act as a facilitator, she can guide you. And you have to take the right path, the right decision, the right choice, and in a right manner. That is also important. So you've done everything diligently and sincerely. So the success is with you. So congratulations once again, Jatin.
So
Ma'am,
Jatin, sorry, I'm sorry.
I'll just say one line, ma'am. I think I have been saying that I have studied. I took 1 year to study for civil services, but as ma'am rightly pointed out, I think it's a accumulation of all these 14 plus whatever I did in college, and I think the teachers in school have the most important role. Developing these little habits, the consistency, the time management, I think these have helped me a lot. So it's a collective effort, and I'm really thankful to all these teachers. I was very lucky to have such great teachers who have guided and supported me throughout. And a huge part of the success is because of all of you.
Oh,
So a big thanks to all.
that is really very generous of you, Jatin. Yes.
I do feel that.
So Jatin, I have
God
another
bless you.
question, and Seema Das Garg ma'am would agree. Children in classes 11th and 12th, and more so in 12th, don't take English seriously. They feel we are from public school and we will get marks in English. We need not study English much. So what is your take on that? Seema ma'am, am I right?
Absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head, ma'am. They don't study English at all.
Yes.
But Jatin is different. Jatin took everything very seriously, including English.
Okay,
That's
okay.
right.
And that's how it should be. So Jatin, what
That's
is
how
your
it should
take
be.
on that?
But Seema, I always used to tell my children to read the newspaper every day. Ask them.
Every
You
day.
can
I
ask
used to tell.
anyone. I always used to insist on this, that read the newspaper and before you go off to sleep, read your English book. One lesson.
And I think Jatin followed it.
Yeah, probably.
So Jatin, what do you have to say that? You must be remembering now that you had friends who would say, English padhne ki zarurat nahi hai. So what is your take on that?
I think English is equally important. It has the same weightage as any other paper in the board examinations. So I definitely think it should be taken seriously. Personally, I had taken it pretty seriously, partly because I had faced a setback. I had scored a little less in class 10th in English and Hindi specifically. So maybe I did that too. I took it a little less seriously than the other subjects. So especially in class 12, I was a lot more cautious. But I think, in fact, English, I would say, is more important because, especially for the Delhi University admissions, English is usually included compulsorily in the best of 4 subjects. I'm sure a lot of students are aspiring to join Delhi University and other colleges. I'm not sure about other universities, how the admissions process is. But English usually is a very big component of that. So definitely focus on your English as well. It's equally important, if not more. And it'll help you in the long run as well. Most of your studies, I think, will be in English language. So a good, strong grasp over the language, I think, is very important. and it will help you in life later as well.
Yes, very true. And you've covered the co-curricular activities, you've covered English. What about sports?
Sports are very important. This is something that I've neglected quite significantly myself, and I feel that I've lost a big part of what school was supposed to be. I never was into playing too much sports, but I think I realized the importance, not just as an extracurricular or co-curricular activities, but it really helps build character. You are interacting with a lot of your classmates, teamwork, discipline, and I think it's a very good activity. Hopefully I'll be able to devote more time to it. I am planning to invest some time in sports, but this is something I would recommend because I did not uh, do it myself a lot, but I would recommend all students do participate.
That's wonderful. And anything now that you would like to tell us or inspire children or tell them about life, schooling, after school, jobs, competitions, relationships, family members, all those things?
Ma'am, I think of myself as a student too. I feel I'm pretty young to be giving life lessons, but still, I would just say this message that enjoy yourself. School is perhaps the best part of your life. You'll be learning a lot of things. You'll be getting a lot of new ideas, and a lot of the habits, especially the younger students. I'm not sure if many of them are here, but a lot of the habits that you pick up in school, they will stay with you forever. So please, please, please do participate. I'm sure there are lots of clubs and lots of activities. Try out different things. Like I mentioned, read the newspaper and enjoy yourself. Don't stress too much about jobs and competition. Of course, that will come, and that is a part of life. But right now, I think do your best, focus on your schooling, and don't worry too much about these things.
Sometimes we see that students are falling into wrong company, and the peer pressure is so heavy that fortunately it's not the issue in our school, but I do see outside that children are, they get used to of this gutka and some drugs and hookahs which have some amount of drugs into them. So your message to children, because students will relate very well with you, that how should they maintain their relationships with friends, because it's all they do under peer pressure. Everybody knows that these things should not be consumed, and but still few get trapped because of the peer pressure. So what I would request you to kind of throw some light that how it happens, how children get trapped, and how should they not get into all these things.
I think this is a very complex subject, and it's definitely a challenge that we are facing. Peer pressure is, of course, a problem. And at that stage, I think it's difficult for the students as well, because they feel that all of my friends are into it, I'll fall out of company. But at the end of the day, you have to have a single-minded focus. You have to realize that this is something that is not good, not just psychologically, because it can lead to dependence on these particular substances, but also physically for your health. These things will not be very good. These not good, I mean, these will be bad for your health, and they will ultimately end up harming. I know it can be difficult, but remember your values, your ideals, and these are the times where you will be tested. Peer pressure, of course, is a problem, but try and involve yourself with people with similar minds, similar tastes, and I'm sure you'll be able to manage and not fall prey to these pressures.
Right, that's wonderful. And children, you must keep these things into mind. Any one of you has any other question? Because time is just getting over, but I can take one last
Excuse me, ma'am.
question. Yes.
Ma'am, one thing I wanted to know from sir, that
Yeah.
just a little curiosity, that because now this pandemic has come in, sir, there are going to be, I feel, significant changes in how the policies, the nature of policies which are going to come about. right? So what is your take on that? Like, how is this pandemic sort of going to act as a turncoat on the sort of policies which are going to be formulated in the future, especially looking at how the GDP is going and the economy and how the world scenario is changing in general?
No, agreed. This is like a once in a century event, and it's going to significantly reshape the world, our country, and all our lives. Already, we are seeing changes. So, policies, I think technology has a huge role to play. It's going to be increasingly more, not only in education, of course, that is a very big part of it. Schools and classes will be online, but even our workplace practices, a lot of things will change. A lot more emphasis on work from home, and I think global changes will also be there. Globalization might be affected because a lot of people are now realizing how important it is to be self-dependent. India unfortunately faced the problem that we had a little shortage of ventilators and ppm, but fortunately, because of the proactive steps of our government, we have been able to manufacture and now uh, self-reliant to a large extent. We also have the new scheme, the Atmanirbhar Bharat package, and the overall approach of the government. So I think definitely policy making is going to change a lot, and I think it's important too we do that. We need to be a lot more self-reliant, but of course at the same time we need to maintain our engagements and our consultations with the rest of the world. Like our prime minister has mentioned multiple times, this is a policy that is solely for the benefit of India, not against any other country. So we are still open for relations with other countries, and as India has always been a proponent of non-alignment, and we are equally aligned with all countries. We are willing to cooperate and work with everyone. So I think going forward, we'll be seeing changes and a lot more focus on self-reliance.
Thank you, sir.
So children, you must develop that entrepreneurial attitude also, and be self-reliant. That's very important. Madhav, I think you wanted to ask a question based on your Interact Club. You can also ask. One last question now. Madhav, yes.
Yes, ma'am. So, sir, so I'm hugely involved in the social service and all of that. So, how do you think this would help me develop as a human being, and also considering that I'm thinking of appearing for the UPSC examination? So, how would social service help me ace the interview? Because I believe that doing social service would help me somewhere or the other in building my character. So, how do you think that could help me?
I think it's a great thing that you are doing, Madhav, not just for the interview. That will definitely help you, but you'll realize you'll connect better with people. You will have that sense of empathy, and that will definitely help you in your interview. And later, I wish you all the success, and you'll be able to do a better job as a civil servant. You'll be able to interact, and you'll be able to engage with them more effectively. And it definitely has a role in the interview process. I'm sure you'll be able to mention it somewhere in your application form, and the board members will be very appreciative of that, because this is something that you are taking an extra initiative, and I think it will definitely help you in your
Thank
interview
you so
and
much, sir.
your overall approach to the services.
Thank you so
Very
much.
right.
All the best.
So Jatin, do you have can you have one more question? And I would request Amrita ma'am to ask that question. She's the psychology teacher, and when you are preparing for the entrance exams, besides being physically fit, it's more of your mental strength that helps you. So can I ask Amrita ma'am to ask a question?
Thank you, ma'am. Congratulations, Jatin. It was a pleasure hearing you answer all the questions. So my question is like, how do I guide students to develop certain traits that can help them succeed in these exams?
I'm sure you will be able to answer that better than me. But ultimately, I feel one should have that sense of vision that that you have this goal in your mind and you are preparing for it. and I'm sure there are a lot of distractions, but this focus will ultimately help you come back to it. And of course, this is a stressful process. So like I mentioned, a support system will definitely help the teachers and the parents. And I think a lot of the time we put a lot of unnecessary pressure on us. We beat ourselves too much, and even if we spend a little time doing something that we enjoy, uh, we later regret it. I also personally felt that I spent some time doing something or the other, and then I later felt that I could have used that. But I think that is an important part of this process as well,
Yes.
because we need these little breaks, these little time off to rest, so that we can prepare and go back to our studies with better zeal. So I think these are important parts of the process as well. So I would say you should recommend the students take these little breaks and enjoy themselves and enjoy the process itself.
Thank you.
That's so important, that you have to enjoy the process, because without enjoying whatever you are doing, you cannot put in your best. You have to
Definitely.
enjoy whichever work you are doing. You have, I mean, the best will come out only then. So Jatin, one last thing from your side, which you would like us to say, the teachers and the children both, separately. A message for teachers and a message for children.
A message for teachers: I think all of you are doing a great job. I'm here because of what school and what the teachers have contributed, and a large part of my success is because of them. So a huge thanks to all of them. I'm eternally grateful, and uh, I hope I'm sure you'll do this only. You'll continue doing this, and I hope other students can also emerge. Like you mentioned, I am the first civil servant from BVN, so I hope there are many more to come. And similarly to students, all the best. Those who are aspiring to join the civil services, and even others. And there are lots of options today, a wide variety of career options, and I'm sure all of you will do very well in whatever you choose to pursue. So all the best to all of you, and do well.
Thank you so much, Jatin. Thank you so much for coming and spending your time and giving us such wonderful tips to prepare as better students. And I'm sure these children are blessed to be guided by whatever you said. And from the school side, I take this opportunity to bless you. And may you have always success and happiness in your life. And stay blessed and stay connected.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a great pleasure to be back, and feels I'm back in school after such a long period. So thanks a lot. Thank you to everyone for coming.
So let this pandemic get over. You must come back physically
Sure,
to the school building.
Definitely,
And
ma'am.
yes, that would be very nice. So thank you
All right.
so much once again. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.